What's up guys, I'm Paul and welcome to my channel. Now in this video we're going to be talking about domain names because they are an important part of your business and your business branding. So it's important to choose the right one, and hopefully this video is going to help give you some hints and tips so you choose the perfect one for you and your business. Now for anybody who's not sure what a domain name is, the domain name is your virtual address. So this is like youtube.com for YouTube and paulschannel.com, which is my website, and it's the address for my website, and it's what you type in to go to these specific websites. It's just your virtual address, exactly the same way as your home address or your business address. So it's just your virtual address. Hope that answers that question for you. But in this video, as I say, I'm going to give you some hints and tips as to how to choose your perfect domain name. Now, before I get in with the rest of the video, I am going to be brutally honest at this point and say choosing a domain name is getting harder and harder every single year, and there's two main reasons for this. The first one is there's lots more websites about, lots more businesses have started websites, lots of individuals have got their own websites, and this means the amount of domain names is shrinking every single year. And the second reason is domain name flippers, and these are individuals who are businesses who buy domain names with potential commercial value and then look to sell them on further down the line for a profit. Now, there are people out there who are genuinely just trying to sell domain names for projects that they've brought a domain name for and it hasn't materialized. And this is something I've done in the past, and I'm basically looking to just recoup my cost that I've spent on that domain name. But there are people who are trying to make huge profits from some of these domains, and I'll give you a quick example. My old business name was e-commerce gold, and I wanted ecommercegold.com, but the person who owned it was asking $50,000 for this domain name, which is an extortionate amount for a domain name. And needless to say, I didn't buy it because one, I couldn't afford it, and two, out of principle, I wouldn't buy it. So these are people who make it very difficult to choose a domain name because a large proportion of the ones you think of and you go and check on will be up for sale by these domain name flippers. If you haven't got the gist already, I'm not a big fan of these people. Yes, if you're selling a domain name because you've done it for a project and it hasn't worked out the same way I have, yeah, I've got no issues with that. People doing it just purely to make a profit, no, I'm not a big fan of. But that is the reason why it's getting more and more difficult to find the perfect domain name for your business. But there are still some kind of guidelines that you want to stick to when you're choosing your domain name so that it's right and it actually works for your business now and also in the long term. And I'm going to cover these in this video. So the first one is you want to stick to the KISS principle. Now, if you don't know what the KISS principle is, it's keep it simple, stupid. Now, I'm not calling you stupid, it's just the name of the principle, but the first three words are definitely something that you do want to consider when choosing your domain name, and you want to keep it simple. And with this, there's a couple of little things that I think apply to this. And the first one is you want to keep it short. You don't want your domain name to be more than 20 characters in length, and ideally you want it to be 15 characters or less, because this makes it easy to remember for people when they're looking at your domain name. The second thing is you want to keep it to 3 words or less, ideally 1 or 2 words, because once again, this keeps it simple and it's easy to remember. The third one is just a little thing, but it can make a huge difference, is you don't want the last letter of one word and the first letter of the next word to be the same. So for me, for example, if I was going to go for something like Paul Loves, this could look quite strange as a domain name because you'd have 2 L's next to each other, and visually it doesn't look quite right because it looks like there's almost a spelling mistake, and people might either look to correct this mistake by not putting the 2 letters in and then not actually go to your domain name. So it is just one of those things you do want to try and avoid if possible. So the final one for the keep it simple is don't try and be too clever with your domain name. And I see a lot of people try and do this. They spell words slightly differently to be a little bit different, a little bit edgy. And from a branding perspective, this potentially could work, but it could also backfire as well. The reason is if people are starting to recommend your business through word of mouth and things like that, if people are searching for this business name the way they think it's going to be spelled, your business might not appear. And this can be in search results, but it can also be if people are trying to just go direct to your website by typing the domain name in. And it could be sending them to somebody completely different or a website that's just not available. And I know it can be very appealing to try and be a little bit different because you want to stand out from the crowd, but you also want to consider the practical application application of your domain name, because if it's stopping people from going on your site, this can affect your business by stopping you getting sales, leads, traffic, whatever it is. It can affect your business so you're not making as much revenue as possible. So it is a practical application you do want to think about when it comes to your domain name. Now, the next thing when it comes to choosing a domain name is you want to avoid hyphenated versions of your desired domain. And I know it can be very tempting to go for this, and I've done this with e-commerce gold, and I pretty much regretted it instantly as soon as I changed over to it, because I always hated that hyphen. And that's one of the reasons why I changed from e-commerce gold to Paul's channel, amongst other reasons as well. But I just didn't like that hyphenated version of the domain name. And whenever I was telling anybody to go on the website, or they was asking what my website is, I was having to make a point of saying what the hyphen was and where it was. And this can basically stop people from going on your website, because if people are typing your domain name in, they're going to forget the hyphen. It's just the way we're conditioned when it comes to typing domain names. We're not used to putting hyphens in, and most people will forget the hyphen. So if you can, avoid the hyphenated domain name. Instead, go for something slightly different to go with a complete domain name without a hyphen in it. Now, the final thing when it comes to choosing your domain name is you want to choose a top level domain. And what I mean by this is the suffix that comes at the end of your domain name. So your .com, the .co.uk, the .net, that little bit of your domain name at the end when it's actually outside of your main domain name. And this is really important because we've basically been conditioned as internet users to go with a .com, because that's what most websites are, like youtube.com, google.com. Basically all of the main websites are .coms. We're just conditioned to do that. But there are other top level domains as well, and I've made a little bit of a chart to hopefully help you understand how these all rank. So at the very top of the chart is the .com. This is the best of the best, and ideally what you want to go for. Next to that are country specific domain names, and I've put these next to the .coms because they are equally important, especially if you're just targeting the country you live in. These are just as important as .coms. On the next tier down, you have basically the secondary level. These are things like .net, .org and .co. These are all very popular options when it comes to choosing a domain, and can be a good option if the .com isn't available, especially if there's somebody just sitting on that domain name. These can be all very good options and very good alternatives to a .com because they all have high levels of trust. And then at the bottom you have pretty much everything else. And if you go on any kind of domain name registrar and do a search, you'll see lots of different things appear. You'll see things like .biz, .shop, .london. You can even have specific geolocations like that. And all of these should really be avoided because people aren't going to remember these. They're not going to remember that your name is a .shop or it's a .biz or it's a .business. People aren't going to remember this. So ideally you do want to stick to the top level domain names, so the .com or the country specifics. If they're not available, then go for the second tier, which is the .net, the .org or the .co, because these are all great alternatives to the .com. Now, a question I see get asked a lot, and I've also been asked quite a lot, is should I go for a .com or should I go for my country specific domain? And the answer is it very much comes down to you and your business. Now, if you're targeting a global audience or you live in the USA, you're going to want to go for a .com because this is the international one. Basically, everybody knows .com is for worldwide businesses or USA specific businesses. And this can be perfect for things like blogs or information websites because you're targeting a global audience. If you're just targeting the country you live in, then you want to go for your country specific domain. This is what I did when I had my e-commerce business because I was just focused on the UK. So I just went for the .co.uk. I wasn't focused on an international audience, just the UK. Now, if both the .com and your country specific domain are available, it's always best practice to get both and redirect the one that you're not using to the one that you're using, because it just helps basically protect your business and your business identity from other people coming in and almost pinching your business name and running a website that could potentially lose you business and customers. So if both are available, just buy them and redirect the one that you're not using to the one you're using. But that is the method you want to think of. Who am I targeting? And it'll help you decide which one should be your primary domain. Now, the final thing I'm going to talk about in this video is how to choose a domain name registrar to buy your domain name through, because out there's lots of good ones and there's lots of not so good ones. And there are a few telltale signs that can help you differentiate between these two. The first one is introductory discounts. Now, pretty much every domain name registrar out there will offer a discount to somebody who's new to their business, but it's the amount of discount that they offer that generally shows you whether this is a good or bad company to deal with. Because good companies will generally offer very small discounts. They may offer like $1 off or 10 or 20% off. The discounts are usually very small, and it's just kind of a little bit of an incentive to get you to sign up. With other domain name registrars though, this discount can be considerable. I've seen lots of them out there, and I'm not going to name names, that do like 99 cents for the year or a free domain name for the year. And this sounds great for people who are just getting started because it's not going to cost them anything, but you're probably going to end up paying in the long run. And this is because not so good domain name registrars will usually have high renewal fees. And another telltale sign I've found is they try and hide the renewal fees. It's not abundantly clear when you're navigating around their website how much it's actually going to cost you for that second year of having that domain name. Whereas with good domain name registrars, they're very upfront and open about the pricing. You know exactly how much it's going to cost you in your second year, your third year. You're not going to be hit by any kind of nasty surprises when it comes to renewing your domain name. Now, another thing that can help you tell the difference between a good and a bad domain name registrar is a good one will generally not charge you to move to another domain name registrar because they're that confident that their business is that good that you're going to stay around. Whereas the bad ones with the really big introductory discounts will usually charge you for this, and sometimes these fees can be quite hefty. So it doesn't matter whether you pay the renewal fee or you pay the transfer fee, you're going to end up paying for that first year, and it could cost you more than if you'd just gone with another company to start with. So those are a couple of telltale signs that can help you decide whether it's a good domain name registrar or a bad one. But who do I recommend? Well, there's two companies I recommend. The first one for .coms, .cos, .net, any kind of international domain name is Namecheap.com. These are a fantastic company. I moved my domains over to them last year and I've been nothing but impressed with the service. And one of the things that is really, really good with it, and not only are they very reasonably priced, but you also get free domain protection on international domains, so your .coms, .cos, .net, things like that. It doesn't apply to country-specific ones because each country has their own rules about domain name privacy, but for international domains, they do include free domain protection, which is a premium feature on a lot of other domain name registrars. And also, the customer service has been really good. I've not had any problems with them, and so the pricing is pretty good as well. Now, if you're based in the UK, I would recommend a company called Koalo. I hope I'm saying that right. This is who I use for all of my .co.uk's, and the reason is they're very reasonable on their pricing. The renewal fees are also very reasonable, and the customer service is also very good. I haven't had any problems with them. And these are the two that I use and the two that I would recommend. And I'll leave a link to both in the description below, so you can go and check these guys out for yourself. So I hope this video has been helpful and it's given you some things to think about when it comes to choosing your domain name for your business. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a like on the video. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do by buying me a coffee. And once again, I'll leave the link in the description below for that. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Once again, I really do appreciate it. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.